My name is Julianne, and this is the episode 4 of our Inside OrangeHRM product demo series. Let's wait a couple of minutes till the rest of people join in, and then we can start. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for joining. We're excited to kick off episode 4 of our Inside OrangeHRM product demo series. In today's session, we'll be diving into the roster and time and attendance module, and also giving you an exclusive sneak peek into what's coming next. We're really thrilled to share these updates with you, and we hope you're excited as well. Today, joining us is our Associate Vice President of Sales, Matt Vendramini. Before I hand it over to him, just a quick note that if you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to drop them into the chat bot, and we will address all your questions during our Q&A session towards the end. And if we are unable to answer the questions during the period of the webinar due to any time constraints, don't worry, we'll make sure to send you a response directly. Thank you so much, and over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Julie. Hey, everyone, this is Matt Vendramini, and it's good to speak with you here again today. Thanks for taking a bit of time out of your busy days to meet with us here. So we're happy to present some new capabilities within OrangeHRM and a quick review of some of the kind of standard capabilities that we have. We're really excited about today's topics, and just want to say off the top, because I do occasionally forget to say this, if you do need to reach us afterwards, you can reach out to us at sales@orangehrm.com. That's sales@orangehrm.com with any specific questions or queries that you may have. If I do remember, I'll prompt that again at the end of the meeting, but just wanted to make sure I said it at least once today. Okay, so let me just jump into our agenda for today. I'm going to start off just with, who is OrangeHRM? What are we all about? What's our sort of historical offering been? So we'll kind of review that for those who may be unfamiliar. And then we want to kind of talk about roster today, as it is a really like a new focus here at OrangeHRM that's really been developed to help close the loop of the capabilities that we provide. So we'll talk a little bit about why we created it, how it works, what's available today, and what's going to be available upcoming. So we'll talk about that. Of course, roster is closely linked with time and attendance, right? So we've made some improvements in our time and attendance capabilities to sort of be more in sync with the additional capabilities that have been launched through the roster module. And then, of course, we'll talk about upcoming features within those modules as well. So again, the focus initially, what's available today in roster and time and attendance, and some of the features that will be upcoming in the relatively new future, matter of months here, really, with some of the upcoming features that we'll cover today. And then, of course, we should have some time towards the end for Q&A. So we'll start off just with a little bit of background about OrangeHRM to kick things off. So for those of you who are not familiar, OrangeHRM was founded way back in 2005 as an open source and free HR application for small businesses. Over time, we developed that application in many different ways based on feedback of clients at the time. And really then we were quite focused on very small emerging businesses who needed an agile, a quick to install and implement, and a customizable open source HR software solution. Since day one, all we've really produced is HR software, right? So it's been the only category that we've really been interested in. All of our research and development and focus has been aimed at making life easier for HR professionals and the employees that they serve and that they take care of, right? As an organization, we are now over 200 employees situated globally. Of course, I'm here in a little bit rainy today, Toronto, Canada. We have 24 by 5 supports and regional customer success teams to help service our client base. One of our specializations really is our implementation and support process, right? So we really like to call it white glove implementation, dedicated implementation specialists. Um, so the support that we like to provide for our clients has really been the anchor of our existence. Really, it's really fostered strong relationships with our existing clients, and has really been a big reason as to why new clients have joined us over the years. In terms of what we did for our clients, we really started in four key areas, right? Employee management, leave management, time and attendance, and recruitment. That was kind of where we kicked off our product initially, and we've really developed it over time since then. Our advanced version was released in 2010, and that's when our capabilities and our product development really started to emerge at a much quicker speed as we were adapting to customer requests and to where the market was going in terms of what sort of steered our product vision over the years. I'll take another minute or two to talk about that, right? So today, our core modules of our advanced product are really these key areas. There's people management, talent management, compensation, and culture. So those are the four pillars of the four areas in which we offer modules. Now, underneath each category, you'll see different modules that are a part of those categories. The core module being people management, right? So the day-to-day operations for HR professionals, right? Employee data, reporting, employee portals for employees to log into and manage their own information, gather documents, review details, perform different functions, etc. So people management has been the core of the Orange HRM Advanced product, basically since 2010 when we launched the advanced version of Orange HRM. And then beyond that, of course, we had other key functional areas that we looked at. Leave and time and attendance were early adopted modules that we had brought on. Talent management grew over time with recruiting and onboarding, and later on request desk. And then the culture area as well was a big focus for us, right? Performance management, career development, training, and more recently, the surveys module and employee voice or employee feedback. So a lot of different areas where we've been able to add value for our clients over time. And this is kind of the snapshot of where things were today. Again, and with roster being the latest addition that we'll certainly jump into more today, right? And again, one of the biggest areas of value of Orange HRM is that no two clients are exactly alike. And so no two clients are necessarily using Orange HRM in the exact same way, right? You can pick and choose the features that you add from the different areas. So some of our clients use maybe just one or two modules, and others may use the entire package that we have to offer. So the way that we're able to incrementally scale and grow with our clients has really been an area of success for us, or a reason why many of our clients have come on board with us is because the way they can kind of build a bespoke fit out of our existing capabilities to meet their needs today. And should those needs change, we've always been agile to be able to add another feature or two for them as needed. So as their needs change, we can change with them, right? So that's been our core offering over time. So introducing roster, we'll talk for a few minutes about roster and what it is, and why we introduced it. Now, Orange HRM is a highly flexible and integratable solution, right? So over time, what we did see is, we had clients that were using our core capabilities within Orange HRM, but they needed a roster solution, and many times they would work with an external vendor and maybe one of our partners that offered a roster capability, and we would integrate that roster solution with Orange HRM, to meet their needs. Over time, what we found though is that it's always difficult to find the right fit. Sometimes integration in that area can be, not necessarily difficult, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time and a little more thought. So we decided, as the needs of our clients were changing, we decided to develop our own roster module in-house, right? And it served a number of purposes. One, it kind of gave us the ability to integrate the product fully with other things that are correlated to roster, like leave management and time and attendance, which really allowed us to kind of close the loop on the capabilities required by our clients so they could come to us for a one-stop shop. It gave us greater ability to work on other areas, right? Like payroll integration and some of the requirements that would come from that, reporting and other aspects that all kind of wrap up together when you look at what an integrated solution can provide. We decided to launch the roster module. In addition, our client base is expanding, is growing, and over the last several years, many types of businesses that would require a roster have sort of gravitated to us for many different reasons, right? We've seen a growth in our retail client base, in our hospitality client base, healthcare client base, and others that rely heavily on roster tools. So probably about a year and a half ago, the idea started to come together, and we've been developing the roster module ever since to really close the loop and complete a little more of the circle of value that we're looking to provide to our clients. So let's talk for a minute just about some of the specific features available in roster today, which is still very early in its iteration, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of the upcoming features that are going to be available. So shift management is obviously the one of the core or basic capabilities that any good roster tool should be able to provide. So that was one of the initial focuses. And in terms of the research that we did, in terms of the areas of focus that we decided on for this tool, it came from really two key areas. One was what did our customers tell us they needed, right? So we took that feedback as a primary driver for the development of the module. And secondary to that was also what else is available in the market? What are other leading roster tools providing for their client base? So we looked at those two things and used those as the premise by which we were going to use to develop our own roster tool. So shift management first and foremost, right? So creating shifts, managing shifts, assigning shifts, etc. So those who have adopted the roster module so far really benefiting from being able to quickly build schedules, assign shifts, adjust shifts anytime to meet business needs, right? So the nature of businesses that have a roster, there's many different scenarios that show up, right? Work starts at 8 this morning. Managers are getting calls at 7 that employees are sick or have family emergencies to attend to. So being able to quickly adapt on the fly, the existing shifts, the existing schedules, accommodate different things like needs of students who may be studying, etc., has been something that we were able to look at initially as part of the development and bake into the shift management capabilities. And the key, though, however, was really keeping the process simple with an intuitive drag and drop experience. So that's what we really focused on with the initial build of shift management as a part of the roster solution as a whole. And then smarter scheduling, right? So what are we going to do in order to give the proper visibility to those who are building the shifts, right? So big one is conflicts, right? Duplicate shifts, overlapping shifts, right? Proper visibility to make sure that it's a shift or a roster is structured in such a way to eliminate conflicts, to provide visibility into things like working hours for employees, eligibility, et cetera, and so forth. Also looking at things like copying schedules across multiple weeks. Some of our clients, their shifts are dynamic all the time. No two shifts are alike, and they need to constantly build and adapt shifts on the fly. Others, they'd like to sort of keep things more steady, at least in a general sense. So being able to save time copying schedules, reapplying them for multiple weeks or different periods, right? So being able to not necessarily have to reinvent the wheel every time they want to implement a new shift or a new shift pattern, or at least apply a previously approved shift pattern to another period. And planning ahead confidently with support for recurring shift patterns, right? So that really ties into the previous point. So also, going back to the visibility side, right? Avoiding conflicts, right? Real world awareness. What's happening at the street level, right? who is on leave and who cannot necessarily be scheduled for a shift, right? So visibility into this area was a key component or a key area of feedback. Interestingly enough, one that we didn't see that was always present in other products in the market. So that was something that we felt was really a must-have. So it was something that we certainly built into the development of our roster tool from the early stages. Um, Instant alerts when conflicts arise, right? So either alerts on screen, alerts via email, or all of the above, right? To make sure that we're going to be able to alert people, understand conflicts, so that any concerns can be addressed as early as possible, so that the process from there forward would be much smoother, and that everyone was aware of what needed to be done, and what was scheduled and what was finally decided. Highlight holidays so that nothing slips through as well, right? So scenarios like that can be properly accounted for. In some cases, you may have employees that are eligible to work holidays, or others that are not, right? So being able to understand those differences when creating schedules and managing schedules was also really, really important. Employee scheduling and intelligence. So an employee focused view, right? So being able to see what an employee's entire schedule, but also importantly, being able to communicate that effectively, right? So the employee needs to be able to see what their schedule is, confirm it, request changes, etc. So giving them their visibility to see their entire schedule within a row is really important. Um, Also understanding workload balances. This was a key. This was a big piece of feedback that we got from a number of clients, right? Understanding, well, who's been working a lot, who might be more eligible to work, what are the potential cost implications of employing someone or scheduling someone who's already worked a lot from an overtime standpoint. Is that employee uh, happy and willing to work extra time, or maybe they're not, right? So getting visibility into some of these details is going to be really important too. So spotting workload balance issues quickly and easily, reducing scheduling mistakes, of course, by linking leave and shifts together, right? So understanding if you can't schedule someone because they may be on leave for a given period of time, it was also critically important. So some of these are the key features that we baked in initially as well. Smarter search filters. Really interesting one here, and one that I was really excited to see, but it wasn't one that I myself personally thought about when we were doing the initial planning for this. Finding the right person by skill, role, or team. Right. So, who's eligible to work this shift? Do they have the skills to take the role that we're assigning them to? Right. A restaurant scenario, is someone trained on cash? So can they work the cash? Right. So should they be scheduled for cash at that time, or should they be scheduled for a different function? Maybe if they're a newer employee and they're not quite ready. So being able to understand information like that, right, by skill, role, etc. Um, only focus on employees that you need to schedule, right? So making sure that ineligible employees wouldn't necessarily appear, making decisions faster with clear and clutter-free views. What really I mean by this is what you're really going to be impressed by is the UI we've developed for this, right? So we always get top marks for UI at Orange HRM. It's an area that we've focused on extensively over the last certainly the last 5 or 6 years, improving the UI. But that's really been taken to another level within the roster tool with a really great UI. So as this evolves, you're going to really enjoy the UI. It's something that we've worked on significantly to make sure that it's a really great end user experience to just be in the tool, to work with the tool, and to experience the tool. All right. So some of the more technical admin side of things here, right? Control and collaboration. So empowering managers with the right level of access, right? So obviously, what's key to any HR system is managing who has access to which data. So kind of taking a page out of the employee administration side of our tool set, right? Empowering managers with the right level of access to see and manage shifts accordingly. So we've had to make some kind of backend changes to ensure that visibility is where it needs to be, but is only where it needs to be. Let team leaders publish or adjust schedules for their groups. So in a number of different scenarios that we had broken down, right, there are certain scenarios where Maybe a department head is in charge of creating and publishing shifts, but maybe a team leader or a shift supervisor needs the flexibility to be able to make those changes as they come live, right? Sort of as the previous example that I had provided. Employee calls in sick this morning. What do we do? How does that team leader or shift manager have the ability to make changes themselves on the fly or adjust schedules for different groups? And then staying compliant with and accountable with built-in auditing, right? So central to any good HR system is a proper audit trail. So significant development has been done to ensure that we've got a really solid audit trail. So should the need arise at any point in time, to be able to kind of look at that, understand what changes were made, why they were made, how were they approved, et cetera, to make sure that auditing and there's a good understanding of why decisions were made, if we ever do need to look back on them. Okay, so access, auditing, communication. So just kind of, to, to to continue from the previous slide, right? Control who can see and publish shifts, assigning shifts by team or manager to keep processes clean, and full audit trail for accountability and compliance, right? So really just reiterating what I covered on the previous slide, to make sure that everybody has the information they need when they need it, and we're able to ensure that access levels or I guess control access at the employee level based on company policies is accommodated as part of the shift management process and the shift visibility process. Okay, so moving on now to time and attendance, right? So again, want to talk about some recent capabilities. Um, Time and attendance, obviously, this is a module that we've had for many years at Orange HRM. It served two main functions. The first being, and the initial one actually was timesheets, right? So employees can submit timesheets for, to track work that they're doing, to track projects they're working on, tying that work to specific maybe clients, client work for timesheets, etc. So that was sort of the genesis way back in the day of the time and attendance module. Shortly thereafter, it was followed by our attendance tracking, right? And attendance tracking, to add a little bit of context here, can mean a number of different things, right? Or let's talk for a minute just about the input side of it, right? So the input side of it traditionally has always been either, let's say, the mobile app, right? So employees can use the mobile app to punch in and out to track their time. They can also just log in via the web UI from a laptop, and they can punch in and out on their laptop. Of course, there is a widget that's available on the Orange HRM dashboard home screen where employees can go ahead and punch in and out. So that was one of the first input sides of it. And of course, over time, we expanded this to integrate to things like time clocks or other devices where that input would take place, right? An employee arrives on site, they punch in the time clock saying that they've arrived at work. As an example. So that's from an input standpoint, just to add context. But let's talk about um, what we've perhaps made adjustments on in attendance and time tracking with relation to roster, right? So a big thing what we've done over the last several years is worked on what a proper payroll report should look like, right? So it's great that we're tracking time, but what are the implications on payroll? What are the different pay codes that an organization needs to consider? What are the different rules about working certain hours per day, maximum hours per day? What is the implication on pay if someone works over a specific amount of time, either in a day or a week or a pay period, etc. So understanding how that works, we've done significant work over the past, I want to say, a couple of years now, right? Ensuring that we are checking all the boxes in terms of considerations around holiday pay, leave tracking. What are the implications on an overall payroll report and what that could potentially look like? So making adjustments for other things like, how does an organization consider rounding, right? If I show up for work half an hour early, but it's not necessarily approved, what does that mean? How do we manage that scenario? If I punch in 5 minutes early, do I get paid for 5 minutes early? In most cases, probably not, right? Do we need to round that up? What if I punch in late? Is there a grace period where if I punch in 1 minute late or 2 or 3 minutes late, that's considered okay, but over 10 minutes, maybe that's not considered okay, etc. So obviously, building into the product the capabilities to manage all of the different scenarios that we come across from our client base in scenarios like that. And of course, we're a global company and we have seen it all. There are many different scenarios that need to be accounted for, right? So adjusting the product to give it maximum flexibility in some of these areas, right, has been really key to some of the work we've been doing. Also, kind of going back to what I mentioned about time clocking in and out, facial recognition devices, or any other types of device by which we would um, consider a punch-in to have taken place. Improved biometric integration for reliable data. This is something we've done for a long time, but it's always been an iterative process whereby we're learning more. We're working to expand our capabilities to really improve our integration with the various tools that our clients use, some of which we recommend, but others that clients come to us that they're already using that we need to work with. So we've done significant amount of work to improve and enhance our capabilities in those areas as well. So I'll talk for a moment about upcoming features, right? Both in the roster and time and attendance modules. So we'll cover those in the next coming slides here. So obviously, you know, for those of you who are familiar with Orange HRM, we're always evolving our modules, right? So the 1.0 version of our capabilities is always, going to be something that we grow on based on the evolving needs of the marketplace, the evolving needs of our clients specifically, the evolving, the feedback, the specific feedback that we may get, but also we look at the competitive landscape. What else is happening in the world? What are other products saying and doing, and why? So we use all the information we can to kind of develop future features moving forward. So for roster, and the great thing about the roster features is we're really working on this at breakneck speed. We've developed some fantastic capabilities that are available right now, but we are continuing to evolve again in a matter of months, existing other capabilities, and some that are even set to release in the very near future here. So kind of early October timeframe. So from a roster standpoint, there's three real areas, right? There's reporting, there's performance insight, and exports, right? So these are areas that we'd again spoken with many of our clients, some of the early adopters, and those that helped us provide feedback for how are we going to shape the roadmap for this product. So looking at reporting that combines roster data, attendance data, and leave data for a complete view of workforce activity. So that's obviously a key one that we've received a lot of feedback on. What are some of the key critical reports for shift managers, for other supervisors, for directors, and also for the senior leadership team? What are the reports that they're going to need in order to make sure that things are operating as expected? So significant work is coming in those areas to really combine data and give some fantastic views. Performance insights compare planned shifts with actual attendance to uncover gaps. So this is really key, right? Understanding, well, who's showing up to work, who's not showing up to work, what's the impact of that on our business, what's the impact of that on the need to potentially scramble to make sure that we're fulfilling shifts properly and that we're servicing our clients as need be, right? So performance insight in those areas are going to be are things that we're really building out in significant ways to provide better reporting capabilities. And then flexible exports, right? So what many of our clients do have come back to us and said, we like your reports, they're fine, but give us the raw data. We need to understand the data ourselves. We're either going to use our own internal tools to manage the data or to review or analyze the data. So give us as much as possible from an export capability so that we can take the data, manipulate it, review it in the ways that we need to as they see fit. So being able to export that data into Excel or CSV for sharing and analysis is a big thing that we've got planned as well. From an attendance management, so making sure that the attendance management module works hand in hand with roster, right? Planned shifts versus actual. So looking at some data and how that's going to work and how the modules are integrated and how they work together. Enhanced support for overnight shifts. So understanding the needs of our clients that have obviously warehouses, logistics, healthcare, hospitality, any number of ones that have folks that are working around the clock, and what the impacts on their shifts are and the reporting, and all kinds of scenarios around that sort of thing. When I started work today, it was not a holiday, but at midnight, it became a holiday. What does that mean? What's the impact on my pay? What's the impact on how we need to treat that employee in any number of different ways, right? With regards to overtime, with regards to holiday pay, with regards to maximum hours, so forth, right? So enhancing the support and the capabilities we have in those areas. And then tracking specifically around things like monitoring lateness and reminding or informing people who need to know. Does a shift manager need to know that an employee hasn't punched in yet? What's the completeness of the shift so far? Do we need to take action? Someone's over an hour late. What's the impact on our business because of that? Do we need to quickly replace that person? How quick do you need to receive that information so that you can take the proper action? And what's the impact on the business? So being able to provide some tools around tracking that side of the business are some of the things that are coming very, very soon to our enhanced attendance management, roster capabilities, etc. Okay, so we've covered a lot here in a relatively short period of time. So want to turn it over to the audience. Thanks for attending the discussion so far, but would love to hear what questions may have come in thus far from the group.
Thanks, Matt. If there are any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat box and we can discuss them right now. I'll just give anyone a moment to type in their question if there are any. Hi, Matt. So we have a question in. Can you explain how to use shifts versus timesheets to track employee hours?
Yes, absolutely. So a timesheet is really driven by the employee. All right. So in Orange HRM, the employee can create their own timesheets. Um, the elements that can be entered on the timesheet obviously are controlled more centrally, right, by a manager or someone of the authority to do so. So, for example, those elements could be the specific activities that the employee is working on or should work on, right, if they're meant to be managed categorically. So an example could be a project name, right? So I'm an employee, I'm working on this project and an activity related to that project. So I'm personally going to say that today that's what I did. Today I worked on project A and activity one, and I did that for X number of hours, right? Or I did that from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon, etc. And I'll continue to fill out my timesheet, right? So think more of like a a timesheet may be used more by a contractor or someone that's going to do some work and then submit the work that they've done, either for approval or to be paid out for the work that they've done, etc. Right? So that's really that scenario, right? Whereas a shift is an employee that's been scheduled to work, right? So I'm scheduled, I work at a restaurant as a waiter, right? So I can look at my shift. Okay, this week I'm scheduled, in the evenings from 5 o'clock to close every day, for example. Okay, so I'm going to come in at 5 o'clock to close every day, right? Oh, next week I've been scheduled for the day shift. I'm going to come in, from 9 o'clock to 4 or whatever the case may be, right? So shift management is really about, scheduling the roster for your employees and how they're going to work versus timesheet is really more, I'm telling you what work I did and how long I did it for, right? Hope that answers the question. But again, it's actually a good reminder. If you'd like to discuss these topics in more detail, drop us a note, sales@orangehrm.com, and we'll be sure to connect to you.
There are a few other questions in. One is that whether the system can work in a flexible work environment.
Need a bit more context to that one, just so I can understand.
And for the time being, there is another one where I would like to ask what Orange HRM's approach to change in laws and remittances are. For instance, in Nigeria, there is a new tax law taking effect in January. Is there any plan or effect towards that?
Yeah, certainly when scenarios like that come to the fore, we look at how those things potentially impact the the nature of the transactions or the processes managed in Orange HR directly, right? So, oftentimes things like remittances are more in the payroll domain, so they don't necessarily affect us. However, what can happen is, and I'll talk more broadly, um, uh, rather than specifically to that scenario, but in scenarios like that where there's a a process change in a given country that affects one of our employees or maybe a one office, right? So we may have a company that has employees globally or employees in several countries, but one of their offices is affected by some type of legislative change, which may affect something like, for example, how they calculate leave or what entitlements um, need to be provided to employees. So sometimes we do have to rely on the customer to come forward to us and say, hey, this legislative change has come into place. It affects this specific subset of our clients. And then we can go ahead and work with you specifically to adjust to that change. We don't necessarily monitor kind of the global compliance requirements of every country in which we do business to make changes to the processes, because oftentimes sometimes they affect our clients directly in terms of how they interact with Orange HRM, but other times they don't. So if there's a way in which that does impact the use of Orange HRM, oftentimes we'll just, the client will raise the concern, we'll get on a call to address the concern directly, and then whatever changes need to be made and how we kind of manage different processes, we can oftentimes make the appropriate adjustments and move forward accordingly.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you for walking us through the modules and also the upcoming features. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to contact us at sales@orangehrm.com. And thank you so much for taking the time to attend. Have a good day.